Labour's Shadow Business Secretary Jonathan Reynolds is here with us. How embarrassed are you that we've only allowed 50 refugees into this country?
Very. I think we were receiving very good intelligence reports weeks before Russia actually invaded. People were aware of that. There was a conversation about that. So I can't understand the lack of planning on the humanitarian side that the government just seems to have not done it. And of course, let's all be clear, we're all, I think, incredibly heartened by the Ukrainian resistance, but originally people thought Ukraine could fall within 48 hours. So, of course, the humanitarian flows would have been expected to be even greater than what we have seen. The government need to do an emergency visa, an emergency protection visa. This is not business as usual. This is not normal immigration to the UK. They should have a special regime in place, recognising that these people coming from Ukraine are not in a traditional visa application process.
Why do we need visas at all? I mean, they're not needing visas to go into Poland.
Well, I understand that because of the EU thing. What I would say is I've seen in the past, as a Member of Parliament, how this country sometimes deals with people coming to it. It hasn't always been very good. There hasn't always been a good distribution of people around the UK and the support for them that they require. So I would want to know how many people are coming to the UK so we can give them the support that is required, especially children fleeing a war zone. But that doesn't have to be a bureaucratic system that keeps people out. You could do that in a very straightforward way that would give people the humanitarian assistance they need in a way that's not happening at the moment.
But I must put it to you that Labour is not doing enough to try to force the government's hand on this. Families are having cluster bombs dropped on them in Europe as we speak. We should be doing more.
But we should be doing more as a country, and we're doing what we can in Parliament, not to make it a party political issue, but to make and advocate for what needs to happen. So that's why we've said that emergency protection visa should be a crucial part of that. On all of these things, we want to see the government do the right thing. We don't want to be attacking them just for the sake of it, but where they are failing, obviously it's our duty to point that out, and we will do that.
What you have done is let the government get away quite a long time with this, with not putting the economic crime bill into effect. I was looking at some figures from a barrister who said as far back as 2018, laws are in place where sanctions could have been put in place against these oligarchs already. So why have they not been?
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right to say this is the central argument of the economic crime bill today. The government have agreed with us on several things, but the crucial question is how long is reasonable to expect foreign companies to register the true ownership of property in the UK. The government said 18 months originally. They've come down to 6 months. We're seeing 28 days. And the reason why I think that is reasonable is exactly what you've just said. David Cameron promised this in 2016. The process began in 2018. It should have been well in force over a year ago. So I'm not just saying really 28 days. I'm saying it's 28 days plus the 6 years where this has already been announced. And that's why I want to see this action taken now. It's not just about oligarchs, it's about money launderers, it's about tax evasion. This black hole of transparency on this issue has facilitated misery, crime, and in many cases, people being able to loot the wealth of their country and stash it here in the UK. That's what's got to change today.
And what about the entities and individuals that have so far been sanctioned by the government? I'm a bit confused about the numbers on that.
Well, what we are clearly seeing, and this is what everyone is asking, why are there people who have been sanctioned by the US, been sanctioned by the EU, but haven't been sanctioned by the UK? Now, part of the answer to that is another part of the bill, this emergency bill that we're going to support the government on to get it through, with hopefully the strengthened protections in place. I think some of it is clearly that the government's previous sanctions regime, which was the Act in 2018, hasn't worked. It's clearly not working if there's that differential in numbers. I think some of it's capacity. I think we haven't taken this area of the capacity the country needs as seriously as we should have done. But hopefully, with the amendments that have been accepted by the government today, this will improve. But be in no doubt, we've got to get this right and we've got to start improving our performance.
And what will that look like? What will that look like, you know, for my viewers at home? What are we actually talking about? We've seen yachts being seized off the coast of France by the French government from oligarchs. I mean, what's going to happen to, I don't know, Chelsea Football Club, for example?
Well, the government seem concerned by the potential legal challenge they might get by sanctioning people if they haven't got a legal regime that is robust enough. And that is hugely frustrating because they should have had one in place to clearly deal with a situation like that. Another set of the discussions around this economic crime bill today will be about whether it is reasonable to allow people to divest of their assets, to sell it, whether that's a yacht, a football club or property, whilst they are the subject of investigation. These are called unexplained wealth orders. They haven't been working, again, very well in the past.
We've had a couple, haven't we?
Yeah, a very few relative to the scale of the problem. Of course, the crucial thing about this is that it's quite hard sometimes to verify what really went on in the former USSR after the fall of communism. A lot of murky things went on where people ended up in charge of entire state industries. So that's really about the burden of proof being on these people to prove their wealth is legitimate. But there are things that need to be done to change the regime to make sure that action can be taken, and you're not just simply giving people a chance to sell their assets, to probably sell them at a discount, but to take the money and run. They've got to be subject to the right regime. Yes, this regime should have been in place before today, and that's a huge frustration. You might remember a month ago, Lord Agnew resigned from the government, citing the fact the government said they weren't even going to do an economic crime bill this year for the next 15 months. Well, clearly that's had to change very substantially. It's going to happen. All stages of the bill will go through the House of Commons today. We'll facilitate that. We think we can strengthen it if the government work further with us and other MPs do. It would clearly be better if it had already been in place.